Will your child hate you for doing this? Well, maybe, but you know what? It's only temporary. I just watched a parenting influencer absolutely lose her mind attacking another influencer for teaching moms to say no to their children. She screamed that you should never say no to your kids. Oh my gosh, my blood was boiling. But here's the brutal truth. If you never say no to your child, you're setting them up for a lifetime of rejection and failure. I'm a grandmother of 9. I've raised 3 children, and I've watched yes parents destroy their children's futures. Dr. Jordan Peterson's research proves that children who don't learn boundaries by age 4 will struggle to make friends, hold jobs, and function in society. The one word your child desperately needs to hear is no. And if you're too scared to say it, you're not protecting them, you're abandoning them. And Peterson's wisdom on boundaries, here let's talk a little bit more about this. His 5th rule in his best-selling book, 12 Rules for Life, states, do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. And this isn't harsh, it's protective. Peterson explains that children are constantly testing limits to discover where the boundaries are and who's in control. And when they get corrective feedback, they understand where the boundary lies. And without this feedback, they learn the wrong boundaries of society. Your household should be what Peterson calls a walled garden. Paradise, he explains, literally means walled garden. And the walls aren't there to imprison, but to protect and create space where nature can flourish. And that's what we want for our children. In his recent Daily Wire series on parenting, Peterson emphasized that parents have a responsibility to make their children socially acceptable by age 4. And if you don't teach these boundaries early, society will teach them later in a much harsher way. The dangerous never say no movement, and it is dangerous. The influencer I heard arguing against boundaries represents a growing but misguided movement. This approach stems from several dangerous misconceptions. First, there is the fear that saying no will damage a child's creativity or spirit. Peterson's research shows the opposite. That's just not true. Studies demonstrate that strict limitations actually facilitate rather than inhibit creative achievement. A lack of restrictions creates an environment that's too unstructured and terrifying for children. Second, there's confusion between gentle parenting and permissive parenting. Gentle parenting still includes firm boundaries delivered with kindness. Permissive parenting removes those boundaries entirely and leaves children without the security that they desperately need. Third, some parents confuse unconditional love with unconditional acceptance of all behaviors. You can love your child completely while still correcting behaviors that will harm them in the long run. And when no is necessary, yes, Peterson provides clear guidance on when no is essential. Here are the fundamentals. Boundaries every child needs. Do not bite, do not kick or hit except in self-defense. Violence as a first response will isolate them from peers and create lifelong social problems. Do not torture or bully other children. This behavior pattern, if uncorrected, can lead to serious legal and social consequences in adulthood. Eat in a civilized and thankful manner. This ensures others will want to welcome them into their homes and share meals with them. Learn to share. Without this skill, other children won't want to play with them, leading to loneliness and social rejection. Pay attention when adults speak to them. This basic respect ensures adults will be willing to teach and guide them. Go to sleep properly and peacefully. This allows parents to have their own time, their own relationship, and that personal time without resenting the child's existence. These aren't arbitrary rules. They're the foundation of functioning in civilized society. The real-world consequences, what are they? Peterson warns that children who don't learn proper boundaries by age 4 struggle to make friends. Rejected children often cease to develop because they become alienated. They become alienated from their peers, and this creates a devastating cycle where poor social experiences lead to chronic maladjustment. And I've seen this in my own 7 decades of life. Children who were never told no become adults who struggle with relationships, employment, and basic social functioning. They were robbed of the gift of early correction that could have saved them years of pain. Peterson puts it bluntly, not disciplining your child is lazy, cruel, and inexcusable. You're setting them up for a lifetime of rejection and struggle. The right way to say no, let's talk about saying no doesn't mean being harsh or punitive. Peterson says that discipline requires special attention to your child. It's not anger at misbehavior or revenge for a misdeed. It's a careful combination of mercy and long-term judgment. Use the minimum force necessary to enforce essential rules. Start with clear verbal boundaries, and if those don't work, progress to natural consequences. Be absolutely consistent. Peterson notes that inconsistency doesn't work, and parents who are inconsistent often end up needing bigger consequences later. Remember that you're acting as a proxy for the real world, but a merciful one. Your correction should be firm but loving, immediate but explained. Practical applications for today's parents. We'll start by limiting your rules to truly essential boundaries. And Peterson suggests focusing on safety, respect for others, and basic social functioning. When you say no, mean it completely. Don't say no when you mean later or maybe. This confusion leads to endless negotiations and meltdowns. Expect pushback and prepare for it. Children will test every boundary you set. It's normal and it's necessary for their development. But stay calm during the testing phase. Your emotional regulation teaches them how to handle disappointment and limits. We all have limits, even as adults. Follow through every single time. One exception teaches them that all rules are negotiable. Why this matters for your family. When I look at my 9 grandchildren, I see the beautiful results of parents who understand boundaries and they're enforcing these. And these children are confident, secure, and genuinely enjoyable to be around. They know they're loved, and they also know the limits of acceptable behavior. Children actually crave structure. It makes them feel safe, it makes them feel loved, and a child who can't control their own impulses lives in constant chaos and anxiety. The parents who refuse to say no aren't protecting their children's spirits. They're abandoning them to figure it out by themselves through painful trial and error with people who won't love them through the learning process. The biblical foundation. As a Christian mother and grandmother, I find Peterson's wisdom aligns perfectly with biblical principles. Proverbs tells us that those who spare the rod hate their children, but those who love them are careful to discipline them. This doesn't mean harsh punishment, doesn't mean spanking, but it means loving guidance that prepares children for life in a world with rules and consequences. God himself sets boundaries for us because he loves us. How much more should we provide this security for our children and our grandchildren? So moving forward, if you've been influenced by the Never Say No movement, it's not too late to change course. I don't care how old your children are. Children adapt quickly to new boundaries when they're implemented consistently and lovingly. So start with one essential rule and enforce it completely before adding others. Remember that some temporary unhappiness now prevents a lifetime of struggle later. So trust yourself as the parent. You have both the authority and the responsibility to guide your child's development. Don't let social media influencers determine your parental instincts. The goal isn't to raise children who never hear no. The goal is to raise children who can handle hearing no and still maintain their emotional equilibrium. The conclusion? Well, Dr. Peterson's research confirms what wise parents have known for generations. Children need boundaries to thrive. The current trend of avoiding the word no altogether isn't progressive parenting, it's neglectful parenting dressed up in appealing language. Your children are counting on you to be the adult in the relationship. They need you to set the limits, to enforce consequences, and teach them how to function in a world that won't always say yes. So remember, every time you avoid necessary correction, you're forcing your child to learn these lessons from people who don't love them. And that's not kindness. That's abandonment. So be the parent who loves your children enough to prepare them for real life. Say no when no is needed. Set boundaries with love, but absolute firmness. Your children's future depends on it. Absolutely. And as Peterson reminds us, being a parent is the hardest thing you'll ever do and the most important. So don't let social media confusion keep you from doing this essential work of raising children who are capable of adventure, accountability, and purpose. Trust the wisdom of generations, trust the research, and most importantly, trust your calling as a parent to guide and protect the precious souls in your care. You can do this, mamas. I know you can. One step at a time. For those of you who still have babies or babies yet to be born, start this very early on. I see this with my granddaughter who's not quite 2, and I see the boundaries that they've set for her, and she's just the happiest little thing, absolutely happy. She has her meltdowns sometimes. She doesn't like to hear the word no, especially from her brother, but more so from her parents, I guess. But she still knows how to have incredible joy. She's very creative, and I'm loving watching my grandchildren grow up. So if you like this, subscribe and leave a comment. Tell me what subjects you want me to talk about. This whole subject of saying no, we could really explore this even deeper because I think parents today can be very confused. So anyway, leave a comment, share this with other mothers who may need to hear and probably do need to hear that this movement of not saying no to your children is dangerous and harmful to your children. So until tomorrow, have a blessed day.